Are people already seeing you?
Yeah, well, what people were seeing was just the lobby
Hmm.
screen, and
Okay,
so
okay.
now they actually see like us, the people, the faces, and can hear us. So my audio level looks pretty good. Why don't you say something normal? See what it sounds like.
I'm seeing something normal. Something normal. Something normal.
Yeah, I think that's probably good. If you're watching, guys and gals, let me know what that sounds like. See if the audio is any good. I think it should be fine.
Are we already live on Twitter? Can we? Can I already share it? I
Yeah,
like to
so
share
we're
it when
we're
it's
live on
already.
YouTube and Odyssey, but you can share on Twitter the link there and just say, "Hey, we're
Okay.
live."
But are we not? Do we not have a live stream on Twitter like we used to do?
No, I kind of cut that out. I wasn't getting a lot of stuff, but good thing is though the link when you click on the link, it'll start playing anyway. Yeah, and this is one of those things that like this is one of those things that when I upload the audio only version, I like cut out because
The audio
like
only
this is
people
one of
get
those things so mad here like the pre-show chatter and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, so just share everything out and let people know we're actually live and it's all good. We let's just see, got a few watching something. YouTube been doing something weird these last couple months where it says one person is watching, and sometimes I'm like, oh, we're just starting out, that's fine. Then like half hour in, I'm like, really, just one person? And then like you refresh it, and it's like actually like 8 or something like that. I'm like, oh, like why are you
Yeah.
lying to me? So I don't know why it does that, but anyway, let's give it about another 30 seconds or so, and we can roll the intro and get actually going in this.
Yeah. On this thing, I always see you with a bit of a delay. Like I hear
Yeah.
your voice and then I see your mouth moving. I guess there's no way around that. There is it.
There's no way around it until I figure out a better setup. I mean,
Okay.
the way it looks, it's all real time on like the viewer's end. It's just that because of the screen share, the screen share is just to show you so you can kind of see. So I'm not a little bit of a robot, but you know,
Right.
it's
Right.
probably
Right. Right.
good. All right, let me see how many watching. Oh, we got a few more. All right, this is probably a good time to actually roll the intro.
Let me get water before you push the intro.
All right, go
Just to
for it.
not have to get up in the middle of this.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. One sec.
Today, I am on my. I've been running around all day, so I have one coffee in the morning, and then I didn't have enough time for anything else other than this, and so I put 3 espresso shots in it. So if I'm a little hyper today, you know, now you know why. And I finally got my hair cut, which is nice. I was looking a little crappy for a while, but around the corner from where I live, there's a barber shop, and I talked to them, and they say that they're interested in taking crypto. Of course, I did, as you can imagine, pay in crypto indirectly, but they're interested in taking it directly, and I should start setting that up, and that would be nice. All right, he's coming back. Let me just roll the intro graphic, and we will see you in a second. So, hey everyone, happy Friday. Ooh, what a Friday. I'm joined by the one and only Carlos Cano. How's it going, man?
What a week. I would say I'm considerably less depressed than the people I see on Twitter and on podcasts and stuff. But yeah, what a week. I mean, we thought every time I come here, it's like sort of a crisis mode, but this one somewhat feels different.
Yeah, this is interesting for sure. And I feel like this is very different from anything that's happened before. This has a gravity to it that equals Mount Gox, I think, because
Yeah.
it's actually much bigger than Mount Gox, but the space was so tiny when Mount Gox happened, it felt like it was everything. And now it's just like, oh, this is another one of those things. But just like that, I am also not too concerned. So before we jump too much into the stuff, I just want to remind everyone to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff. I'll keep on. I need to start hustling more for like likes and subscribes, because whenever I do, I get them and it helps. But I usually like whatever. So if you have my NFTs, you are in my Discord and you get access to the Digital Cash Rundown super chat, and you can go in there. And don't worry, Carlos, I'll hook you up at the end. But if you don't, you can go to cointr.ee/the desert links, cointer.e, and still old school, leave a little donation message, and you get your super chat popped up on the screen. And at some point soon, again, I guess so much work to do, but I'm going to make an easier way to get an NFT, so you can actually buy it in show, just like while the show's going, just sort of like click a link, buy it, and get into Discord, start leaving super chats like live, which would be pretty cool. I just figured that'd be like a nice way of doing things, so you get an actual fancy thing rather than just, oh, I paid for that one message and then it's gone. So that being said, let's start. FTX's ongoing saga, everything that's happened until now. So the only thing ahead of time I have to say on this is FTX was one of the larger crypto exchanges in the world. I don't know exactly how it ranked, but it was like
number. I was literally just seeing the figures from November, so let me just pull that up real quick. But I got that data.
Yeah, top 3 for sure. I mean, it was like people kind of sleep on Binance being just there all the time, but it was starting to get there. I do remember that they got into. I was hearing discussions from that side of things about trying to buy Coinbase. And when you're thinking about buying Coinbase, you're big, right? So
yeah. So who do you think was okay? Binance was number one, 47% of the market. That's pretty big. This is in June, by the way. I couldn't find more recent figures, but this is in June. Who do you think was next?
I would either do Coinbase or Crypto.com, but I don't know this part of the space super well.
It's surprisingly an exchange called Upbit, which I didn't even know existed.
Interesting. No, I know about Upbit. They just not in the. They're not like super US oriented as far as I know.
Oh yeah. It could be that. It could be that they're like more popular in India or somewhere. Then number 3 was FTX with an 8% share of the market. Then it came Coinbase, Bitmart, Huobi, all the other big ones. But I was surprised to see like no one actually gets any closer to being a decent competition to Binance when it comes to market share.
It is absolutely insane and huge. So let's roll because Binance figures strongly into this story. So let's go down this actual story. So I'm going to start from the bottom because it's a sequential thing of like what happened. So here we go. Oops, I skipped too far. So let me just make sure it looks good on the screen. Yep, there we go. So November 2nd, reports SBF-founded company held significant amounts of FTT, which is, what do they call it? FTX's token. So Alameda researchers supposedly held significant amounts of tokens. So it's kind of like too much like shared risk. November 5th, trackers pick up significant FTT movement to Binance. So basically, Binance is like getting ready to start dumping. And then, my mouse wheel's not working well. Then Alameda CEO explains the balance sheet, which, by the way, I don't know if you know, if you ever seen pictures of this lady, but she looks like a 17-year-old librarian. Like, there's no way. It just does not look like the president of a major exchange or anything like that. And she actually has the same name as my little sister-in-law, who's also like very young. So, anyway, then we move on to, because there's so many things in here, where Binance comes in. Binance moves to liquidate FTT holdings due to recent revelations. So this is the point. This is where the story gets interesting. It's not just, Alameda has a lot of FTT. Oh, well, this and that. Oh, maybe something's moving to Binance, which Binance was making a move to start selling their FTT holdings. That's really what it was. But the fact is, CZ comes out, Changpeng Zhao, the big cheese himself, says as part of Binance's exit from FTX equity last year, where they received all this much, due to recent revelations, we're going to be dumping it all, but it's going to be slowly in a way that doesn't disrupt the market. You know, and then
like
the market was in fact disrupted.
Yeah.
The market did get quite disrupted. So basically,
like you're ever gonna get that.
Yeah, in my view, this is when CZ basically just says, "Oh, you wanna fuck around? You're gonna find out." This is when he decides to like cause something, and I should say, I kind of blame CZ like 10% in all this, like just a little bit. He kicked things off, but it was worth being kicked over, kind of. So then Alameda CEO offers to buy their the Binance's holdings. Basically, just says like, "Oh, we'll buy all your holdings, so you don't sell it and crash everything that we have." And then they basically refuse that. And then all of a sudden, people start saying, "Get your funds out of FTX. This is financial advice." The bank run begins. Everything starts to happen. So that's November 7th. That wasn't very long ago. And then SBF says assets are fine, but can we like figure something out with CZ? Oof. And then here we go. CZ refuses Alameda's OTC deal for to buy the FTT tokens. Now that's when it starts to really go bad. So then stuff starts to waver on the 8th. FTX faces a liquidity crunch, and then instantly, like in the space of like a day or two, like literally just like a couple days, they're just like, everything's fine, don't worry about it. Oh shit, we got to sell our whole exchange to Binance. It's like, I thought that was like, wow, this escalated quickly, but that it was only the beginning.
It turned out to be the happy ending to this story. Mm-hmm. That never happened. Like if we would have gone that route, like God, Jesus, fuck, like
yeah,
the pain that would have spurred.
Yeah, I mean, grab the popcorn, kids. There's so much more. SBF removes the assets are fine tweet. FTX websites go dark. Now it's like, oh, things are really bad. Binance officially backs out of the agreement. So I almost feel like this initial bank run thingy was to sort of make FTX start to collapse and start to like run into trouble. But it wasn't until Binance kind of was in talks to acquire FTX that set up the death blow. Because if they hadn't said anything, then SBF could have run around and told everyone like, hey, we need some liquidity really quick. It's okay, problem. And then maybe they could have gotten some investments and then kind of raided the ship for just a little bit, even though they had a huge scare. But then the fact that Binance is like, no, we'll come in and save you. As soon as you're talking about this acquisition deal, it's like the company's done. But then when you back out of it, now it's like a flaming corpse. It's over. It's so over. And Binance kicked things off, offered to sell, and then backed out. Like, they did everything they absolutely could. It's just mind-blowing.
I mean, there's a cynical part of me which wants to say, okay, they decided to burn it to the ground, to buy it off for as cheap as they could, and then halfway through, they just decided that it was more profitable to leave it for dead than to pick it up. So they decided to completely... That's my conspiracy theory. I have zero data to back this up, guys. But
that makes sense.
I mean, sounds reasonable to me.
That's actually nicer than probably what maybe I'm thinking. But anyway, so we got November 9th. We only got 2 more days to go. Crypto market in a sea of red. SBF tells investors supposedly that he needs $8 billion in emergency funding. Can you imagine just like,
billion.
Oh, yeah. Bro, it's tight before payday. Can you spot me a quick $8 billion? It's like, Jesus. Weren't you just one of the richest people? Anyway, it's crazy. FTX urges against depositing, unable to process withdrawals. Oh no. Now we're on to yesterday. Sequoia Capital marks down entire 214 million FTX stake to zero. So basically, Sequoia Capital, a VC firm, had 214 million of FTX, and they're putting that on their balance sheet now as being worth zero. They basically say FTX is done. and they're officially admitting it to their tax accountants. And then SBF is apologizing over the liquidity crisis. I fucked up twice. Oh, more than twice. But then Japan's financial regulator requests FTX halt operations. Then blockchain data suggests that FTX may have resumed withdrawals. This is where it gets really bad, right? Because you start seeing outflows from FTX. And when you see these outflows, it's not regular customers. This is when the backroom deals start. This is when people are like, "Oh shit, can you just like get me for like I'll owe you big time if you get my money out first." And then they're doing stuff like that. Again, there's a lot of speculation in that statement, but there's a lot of truth, as you'll see further up the list. Yeah.
Can you send me the link to this article just so I can crawl through it as you're reading it, because I wanted to pinpoint something. So if you could just drop it on our Telegram or something too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Done.
Please resume.
This is fun. So Maxine Waters, who I don't trust, whatever, she warns of major consequences for users of unregulated crypto firms, citing FTX. So now the U.S. regulators are starting to get into this thing. CZ speaks with the president of El Salvador, confirming the country is not exposed to the FTX situation. Whew. I mean, wow. Can you imagine if all of El Salvador's Bitcoin was custodied on FTX? Can you imagine? Just like now you're wiping out nations. Now it's all over.
Just imagine that shit. Oh man, yeah.
So then a Republican lawmaker claims SEC Chair Gary Gensler was coordinating with FTX to obtain a regulatory monopoly. Now, that might be hearsay, but the spirit of that is true, in my opinion, because as everyone's known, FTX SBF has been one of the crypto Judas. He has been arguing for more regulation for the entire industry that would hurt, I guess, himself maybe, but competitors a lot. And he's been fighting with Eric Voorhees and other people like that. It's just been a big to-do over him basically trying to be the guy to propose legislation to regulate crypto. And honestly, it's because as someone who runs a centralized exchange, he wants to crack down on DeFi because that's his biggest competitor. And so whether he was working directly with the SEC chair is, that's an accusation. I don't know what evidence there is on that, but is he working indirectly with this? Absolutely. Like, is he doing the regulatory pushes to try to get ahead? Absolutely. All right, now we go. FTX US resigns from the Crypto Council for Innovation. FTX US announces it may halt trading on its platform in a few days. And I remember in the early tweets, SBF said that FTX US was not affected, but the other one was. And now it's like, well, apparently everything. Here we go. FTX assets frozen by Bahamian securities regulator. So SBF allegedly lives in the Bahamas, and supposedly there was a lot of, like, that's where you have a lot of capital outflows from the exchange, was for, accounts in the Bahamas and basically his friends and stuff like that getting their money out. And here's where it gets just gnarly, right? Bahamas account on FTX withdraws millions of funds for other users using NFTs.
like you couldn't get any more fucking shady or just horrible. Oh, where is this Sam guy right now? Is he really on the run, or has someone managed to locate him?
Well, we're getting to that.
Okay.
So as far as this is just the first post of today. So on yesterday, FTX opened withdrawals, but only for the Bahamas, which is where SBF is supposedly living. Now, there's been an account that's been withdrawing a bunch of funds, but basically what they did is they were allowing certain users to take their FTX balances, also known as dead money they can't use, and buy NFTs with that then got withdrawn. So they're using it to launder out NFTs in order to get some kind of capital out. Now here we go further. So California regulators to investigate FTX crypto exchange collapse, of course. And here we go. Rumors about the arrest of FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried fuels community reaction. So basically, the crypto community, blah, 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 blah. The most prominent conspiracies in November 11th that suggest that he was arrested on the tarmac at the Bahamas airport. They did some like, you know, posting some flight radar map stuff and kind of doing some estimates of like, where is he? Anyway, Alameda employees resigned collectively after a meeting. That was earlier today. FTX's institutional head resigned just a day after the exchange's fallout, starting to collapse. So FTX has liabilities roughly worth $8 billion, according to Zane Tackett. So where are we now? I'm going to refresh this page just in case something else has popped up.
Here's a very ignorant question.
Yes.
What country do the Bahamas, belong to, or how does that work? I have no idea how that works.
I think it's a sovereign thing. Like,
Okay, are they like a sovereign state?
yeah. So let me
Let me just Google that real quick. Um,
yeah, so I know that the Commonwealth of Bahamas. I know that they have been used frequently for offshore accounts and things like that. I know that kind of became a thing for a while.
yeah.
So yeah, it's I think it's also where like a lot of we hear like offshore is like that kind of stuff. So yeah, they got independent from the UK in '73. So
Okay, and they have a monarch. Okay, interesting.
yeah, but
Imagine
like
being king of the Bahamas.
usually, I mean, I think SBF thought he was, but like usually when you get these kinds of things, it's usually nations like this like to play nice to their more like wealthy
Oh yeah, neighbors
depositors
definitely.
and stuff. And so they'd be like the fact that there is like instant regulatory action and possible arrest and stuff being made because of this, it's bad news. It's like, wow, how bad did it get that now like you getting the Bahamas government involved?
Oh
So
yeah. I thought you were going the other direction, but yeah, that's right. How bad can it get to like a jurisdiction known for money laundering arrests you?
so what is your hot take on the situation first?
In this situation, first of all, go back a little bit. How bad do you have to be trading to lose $8 billion and get into this whole mess? Forget about like playing with users' funds. How bad do you have to fuck up with those users' funds so you get into that situation to begin with? Then now, of course, there are all kinds of allegations about like how bad they're treating the employees, how they were like just in their communication with them, their managerial practices and all that. But I think if someone's looking fantastic after all of this, that's our mutual friend Eric Borges. Like that
Yeah.
guy right now, yeah, right now he must be feeling incredible because when they did that podcast with Bankless, I just thought, one, these guys are totally sucking up to SBF. Second, he's the only one not buying their bullshit. Third, SBF really has a pretty annoying voice. Never heard him speak. Yeah, was pretty difficult to listen to that whole thing. But were you trying to pick beef with Bankless earlier on Twitter? I saw something and I didn't know how to read that.
You mean you're asking why I was beefing with them?
No, I was asking you if like the intention was actually to beef with them because I think like people should like these guys don't get called out when they act like they knew all along.
Yeah, I don't know them and their podcast too well. I just know that they're there. They're big figures. They're Ethereum people. And I know that my only beef, my big beef with them, which I don't really have much beef with anyone, but my big beef with them, they call their show fucking Bankless. And they're the most like corporate banked little like Weasley people.
Yeah.
And they won't have anyone real on their show who's like, I mean, they won't have me on the show. That much I know. But I'm pretty sure they've had no one real except for Eric Voorhees. And that's only because he's about as like edgy as you can get and still get on the show. And it just like yesterday, it really annoyed me that
Who's
they
that?
were just
Sorry,
Eric
Eric.
Voorhees.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because he's a real one. However, he's very like tied with a lot of the crypto, like the digital currency group and stuff like that. He's a lot very comfortable with the suits as they were, even though he's real and what he's working on is real. He's friends with a lot of fake people, and so he's like the edgiest, most real person that they could have on. And even then, it was only for like a debate. And it just, when they're like, I feel like there's nothing else good in crypto, when they're all like whining like that, it's just like, oh, come on. Like, we haven't been using it the entire time. Like, we haven't been using it to not be part of this banking system. Just because some banks fail, you're like, oh, well, crypto sucks. Well, like, you should know better. It's just so, it's very disappointing. But like, also, I just like to have an opportunity to boost my Twitter clout by roasting people who deserve it. There's that too.
Yeah, and honestly, like Eric is very, very much like libertarian, unapologetic. But like, if you go back to that episode, that debate, they're almost treating him like the bad guy there, like the guy to beat on that, because these guys are super corporate, like you said. And he came out of that looking like, okay, this dude just would not compromise on his ideals. And then, like 2 days ago, turns out the other guy is in total shambles. And I think he came out pretty vindicated from that. I don't think anything's gonna come out of it, but just think it's pretty cool how the timing of that went.
Yeah.
So as for hot takes, I mean, really, 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 like, what we wanted institutions to come to DeFi and or to crypto, and sort of what we're really getting is institutionalized scams. That's what we're getting. Just like the institutional versions, like the suit people are scamming you. It's not the people in shorts anymore, and it fucking sucks. And this ties in very deeply with the real topic of your podcast, which is cash and which is fiat on ramps, fiat off ramps. Solving that problem for crypto should be huge and should be as decentralized a way as possible to avoid these kind of things. Because if you had a fiat on ramp and cheap transaction fees, why would you even use something like FTX?
Yeah, and that's the thing is you don't really need fiat on ramps if you earn crypto. So that's the kind of funny thing about this whole thing is when we're talking about these crypto banks, this is just the old financial world coming in and just doing what it does, except without the same protections. And by protections, I mean bailouts. Like in 2008, this exact thing happened, but probably on a much larger scale. I mean, I didn't check the numbers, but probably on a significantly larger scale.
Oh, yeah, that thing ruined the world. This just ruined crypto for a while, but like that thing ruined the world for everyone.
Yeah, so it was such an insane thing. And then we all paid for it then. The only thing is, like, can you imagine if you had to pay, like, imagine if instead of FTX and all of its subsidiaries breaking down, instead what happened with the old financial system was, well, that all happened, but instead of just those people losing money, they all kept their money, but everyone else in crypto paid like a 20% of their life savings to bail that whole thing out, just kind of done in extra token printing across all chains and over a period of time. It's literally just what happened. And so you just don't see it. It's less visible. These kinds of people don't go to jail in the legacy system. They just get bailed out because they're connected, which, by the way, I've been pointing out, SBF gave $40 million of his own money to U.S. Democratic Party campaigns ahead of the midterm elections that happened this last Tuesday. So he's already been buying political influence. And there's a whole bunch of conspiracy theories out there about, oh, his mom started all these political things. And then how did he get to like, I haven't looked too much into that, but he's politically connected, which takes us, by the way, to our next point here. U.S. senators commit to advancing crypto bill despite the FTX collapse. Good. 2 U.S. senators said that the downfall of FTX clearly exemplified the need for greater federal oversight of the digital asset industry. And this is how SBF really fucks us all. Because his whole thing was he started drafting like proposed legislation, like rules on how to do stuff. And now that he got it, went down in a flaming blaze of glory, it's still being implemented. Even though he was the bad guy calling for all this out of the regulation, all this stuff, they're still going to try to take his stupid ideas and put them in and kind of hurt everyone. And that's like the big thing is, first of all, everyone that this is likely going to do much more harm than his actual dumb scammy things in his exchange, because that's just a giant explosion. Everyone's market dips for a while, his actual customers lose all their money, but then you can recover from that. This is something you can't recover from.
Yeah.
It's just that the thumb on top of the thing. Now it's going to be like, oh well, everything has to be this, that, and then we're going to bail out exchanges that like go under in the future. And it's like, this is his legacy, unfortunately. And so yeah, I mean, that part makes me a little sad, because the thing with this kind of collapse is it's only like people at some point are going to have to start learning to be smarter with their money. And so, for example, I have not lost any money in the FTX. I have not lost any money in Mt. Gox. I did not lose any money in just every single thing, because I learned my lesson early on. Now, the one lesson that I probably should have learned was that before putting a very small amount into UST, into Luna, I should have looked a little more into the stuff. I had misgivings the way it worked, but I was like, a friend of mine who does a lot of research, he said he's put everything into this, so I'm going to just try it out as like a little stablecoin strategy in the bear market, and then boom, that all exploded. I'm like, all right, well, I screwed up once. I know, I'm not going to get mad at it. It's my own fault for like not looking super into USD. But I mean, I was mentioning how Ponzi like it sounded on my shows while I have a little bit of it myself just to try it out. So I don't really care. But like, this is the only way people learn to do their due diligence and kind of stuff, especially since almost everything that FTX did, like people had it on the platform to like stake and earn and things like that. Almost all of that today you can do on DeFi. And people just got freaked out by a hack here or there or an exploit. But DeFi is inherently safer, at least over the long period, than this. Because in my opinion, CeFi over a long period trends to hack, hence trends to collapse. And DeFi is the opposite. It's risky when it's like untested, but then the longer open source code is out there, the more it gets worked through, the lower the risks get over a period of time until it's, basically about as risky as transacting using, say, the Bitcoin blockchain, which is like, nah, the rules, how it's going to turn out, basically.
Man, I think it's just like a ridiculous thing with the bailouts and all that. But like, I'd really advise anyone that hasn't, or even that has, listened to that debate with Eric and SBF to go listen to it, because now when you listen to it, having known like the whole history, how it played out, and the story of SBF and all that, then you start realizing, okay, on top of everything he did, you're now gonna take more seriously the claims that Eric did, that he's doing he's making huge donations to politicians that will help him further his cause, while taking chances from the DeFi cause, while actually trying to support initiatives that censor DeFi. So that's a long-term bad play for the actual decentralized side of things. That's a shame. He's been pontifying on the whole industry for a while. I actually do not remember when was the last time I heard like. I remember thinking to myself, this is gonna sound like everyone else saying like I always suspected it, but like I remember thinking to myself when he started becoming famous, like, okay, when centralized exchange figureheads start becoming famous, that's never a good sign. That's as far as I got with that. But like, do you remember at what point he started becoming like this celebrity in our industry?
I actually don't. It's kind of funny because the crypto industry is like segmented so much that now like it. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, which might make me sound stupid, but I didn't know what FTX was until like a year ago. I didn't know.
Okay,
I didn't know it existed. I was like, "What is this thing?" Oh, you know how I found out what FTX was? Was
let
when
me
they
know. Let me guess. When they purchased Blockfolio.
exactly. And
Yeah,
I
same
didn't
for me.
even use Blockfolio, but I just knew that like some people that I knew were like trying to broadcast dash alerts, like dash project things onto the Blockfolio updates thing. And they're like, "Oh, we can't get a hold of them ever since they got acquired by FTX." That's the only reason. I didn't know what FTX was. I didn't know they were an exchange. I thought they were another Blockfolio. But then like it was only within like the last year or maybe even less that I even know they were an exchange. I didn't know who SBF was until like 3 months ago, like very recently, because like all these, I'm just out of the trader loop of things. I'm just focused on other things, and it just I kind of like, oh, that's that guy. Like I kind of like didn't. I only knew a few like crypto YouTubers like BitBoy and stuff. Like it's funny because these cast of characters changes constantly. Right? There's just a new cast of characters, new things, whatever. I
Yeah,
know Brian Armstrong of Coinbase. He's been there since the beginning. Obviously Voorhees. Obviously CZ because he runs the freaking world.
yeah.
And then then I just know a few other like figureheads of projects like Charles Hoskinson, who baby Hoss, who's he just finally turned 35. I still react to this, the way he looks, but I just if you like, I don't know who's in charge. I don't know any of the Solana devs or anything like that. I don't know any of those people. I couldn't give you a face or a name. I don't know anything about. I know a little bit about Polkadot, but I don't know any of the people behind it. Like so many things, I just don't know, and I guess I should be better at that. But this like the celebrity thing, now I'm learning about this retroactively, where I'm going back and seeing, oh, that's that guy that was in all those pictures in Times Square. Oh, that's that guy with those stupid, weird, cringe documentary things about this guy's a billionaire and he eats plants and he's gonna give money to everyone and like, I just like all that weird stuff. And what's the funny thing about this guy? First off, he's young, like significantly younger than me, and he also, from what there's a lot of rumors of him and his people doing like weird meth orgies and stuff in the Bahamas with all that money.
Well, why is it always the orgies? Why does these people always like? Why do we have to, on top of everything they do, every time someone scams the entire world, we have to hear about their sex lives?
Because it's
But
interesting.
there's always something. They're always playing with something weird aside from like scamming and stealing money, dude. Just the amount of money that like these guys had. He was, how much money was he worth at the top of his game? Like 14
Something like that.
billion or something like that.
Yeah, many billions. Well, and that's the thing.
Ridiculous.
These like valuations, it kind of had like, I'm starting to realize that it doesn't mean what it means, Like that's the thing is
Oh
like
yeah.
when you talk about valuation, like what is something worth? And this is of course true in money, but I'm also just talking about like people's public reputation or like the ability of this guy to kick anyone else's ass in a real fight. Like all that stuff, it's like so like not absolute. It's like the best fighter in the world can have an off day, or if you fight someone who just has the right combination of things, who's nowhere near, not quite as good as him, but can beat like on a different day, this person wins. It's like it's all the absolute. Everyone's the best, the biggest. These absolute metrics, and that does not exist in this world. It's so like all this money. Like how much is he worth? Well, first of all, a lot of people were assuming that was this guy has a business where he takes customer money and exchanges it for other stuff, and the slim profit margins on those many times over builds up an actual war chest of real value and equity, and then his company's worth that much, and his shares in that company are worth that much. Therefore, he's worth that much. Well, first of all, it turns out that he was taking customer funds, like literally people's money, and then buying other things with them, like doing other things, like leveraging them against this and that to like have more value.
And losing money on top of that.
Yeah. But stacking on top of each other, and then the valuation of this dumb token associated with his exchange was high enough, and because of his holdings and this and that, all his numbers. I mean, do you know how much he's worth now?
Like now, no. I bet if I run into him today and I will tell him, dude, if you go to zero, like if you go and start from scratch, everything disappears. He would take it immediately. So he's worth less than zero right now.
Yeah, he is. I've even seen some people saying that his net worth is now classified as zero today. And it's like, well, how do you have all this money? And then now, like, when you think about what happened, nothing burned to the ground. Nothing actually happened except everything happened. Literally, the only thing that happened was some people said some things and learned more about the money he had. And then they got scared and it's worth nothing now. Like, that's literally the only thing that, like, nothing happened materially in the last week, really. But all of a sudden, like, because it was all bullshit, he didn't have that money. It was all inflated on all this weird speculation and stuff. And once people's minds changed, whoom, all of a sudden he has nothing. It's just crazy.
Well, that's an incredible take, because yeah, like what actually happened is like some information moved from some heads to others, and then boom, yeah, fucking weird. Now, another thing is like Alameda was doing pretty poorly in their trading. I guess that's what was what like the one thing that actually happened that triggered all of this was like that they were trading pretty poorly. But if you go to now, everyone's saying shit, right? Like now you don't know what to believe or what stories are real, which ones are fake. But there were some people that say like, okay, this guy was pretty much behind the whole Luna thing. This guy was behind all other massacres in the industry, and CC knew all about that, and like he just pulled the trigger now because he saw a chance for it to actually benefit him. Which, I mean, I can believe that story. Like it's like the whole BUSD thing. Like he's willing to walk over things in that benefit him to make like a net huge gain. So I'm just left wondering if he's capable of slaughtering his enemies as easily, and now he's owning bigger and bigger shares of the market. He's just gonna do that more easily. So, what market share do you think Binance is gonna have in 2030?
So I don't know about 2030, but in 2023, like January, it's probably like 85%.
Oh yeah, so
Like everything.
The real question is like, okay, how much do we want to trust these guys? Because now after this, if Binance is over, it's all over. Like I can see that like being like the nail on the coffin of this industry if that ever happens.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it also like that's why we need to push like decentralized systems a lot quicker. Let me see. So, well, really quick, just because it's not an actual question or whatever, but one time I had some funny comments in there where he says, Sam bankrupt fried. Yes, that is very accurate. He got screwed. But back on the news thing, this was an interesting tweet I saw. SBF's investments. Now, this is something that
Oh wow! Okay, let me put this on. I was
Good.
just to my site.
This will take forever to like chew through, probably, and it's very deep.
Oh,
But basically,
can you send me the link? Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you just stop sharing the screen and send me the link, because I want to see this in detail, and I'm seeing this in like this very
yeah,
very
let me
pixel screen.
let me get that to you. But the thing about this is, obviously, we can't go through. It would take probably the whole show to start going through every single one of these. But the point is, here through Alameda, here's all the investments that they had. They're invested in all these things. So if they go, then they will have to, they'll have to liquidate these investments, right? And so, or a lot of these. So Polygon is one I see on that. That's kind of a big one. But Polygon's been doing so well with everything else that I'm not really scared for like a collapse or something there. But still, like Lido is another one they were invested in. So they're invested on a whole bunch of things, like Voyager, for example. That's a bad one. So
did you tag me on this thing?
Oh, no, I didn't tag it. I sent it to your Telegram.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for a tag. Okay.
Yeah, and so, but this is just stuff. This is second order effects of like, okay, well, if they have to sell equity and all these kinds of things, they all get hurt, but they're not that bad. Not necessarily that bad. But then you go down to here, and it's like, okay, now through FTX, acquisitions are Bitvo, Blockfolio, Ledger, Liquid Global, Storybook, Brawl, and Voyager. So Voyager, I do know, unfortunately, some people personally who lost a lot of money in Voyager, and they're like waiting to get it back. And after FTX bought them, they're like, oh, okay, well, things are going to be better. But now the FTX is screwed. It's like, wow, that's even better. And then, of course, they're invested in all these ones here. And FTS US is acquired Ledger Prime and Embed Financial Tech, and is invested in BlockFi, although basically they bailed out BlockFi. So now BlockFi, by the way, has once again paused like withdrawals and stuff like that because they don't know what's going on with their basic owners. So that's pretty bad. And then FTX Ventures are invested in just like everything. Again,
let me ask you something. What do you think is going to happen with Solana?
With Solana?
Yeah. So Solana's in shambles right now.
Yeah, I honestly think that Solana, based on the strength of its integrations and stuff like that, it's going to be around for a little while longer. I think that Solana as the Ethereum killer is dead, though. Like, I think it's and honestly, like, good riddance. Like, I've never been a fan of Solana just because, first thing I hear, centralized garbage. Okay, I already don't care. I mean, if you want centralized garbage, get the best centralized garbage, which is Binance Chain.
Exactly.
Like, if you want the best,
get your top quality vaporware.
Your top garbage. The top of the barrel, not the bottom. Just like the sandwich someone took one bite out of and just left on top of the trash can. That's what you want for your garbage. You don't want the banana that's been rotting at the bottom of the garbage for.
Oh yeah, you get the old toaster.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. But then also it just kept breaking all the time, and so I couldn't take it seriously for that, and especially when you see a lot of money in it. That's a sign that they have no incentive to change and evolve. If they're breaking all the time, but they're poor, that's one thing. But if they're rich and they're spending money on like Times Square little stores where they sell sneakers and stuff, like all this weird stuff, and they don't work, it's like, okay, that's a bad sign. That's a sign that they're going to just lose everything. So I don't think Solana's going to be around in the future. I just think that it'll take them a little while for their network effects, for all the NFT creators that are on their platform and all this kind of stuff, all that to just kind of go away. It'll take a while. But yeah, I think that they're going to be gone. That's going to be crazy. Let me see. What is the next?
What's your realistic worst case scenario on the aftermath of all of this? What's like the one thing you would say, okay, fuck, that happened, now what?
So what do I think is the worst case scenario as far as like after this right now?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, regulation wise, because I mean, like, people lose their money. That happens all the time. But like, the problem is like now this might actually impact regulation and hurt things in the long term.
Yeah, I think what it's going to do is it's going to make it significantly more difficult to acquire and sell cryptocurrencies on centralized exchanges. So that's for sure. Like, I think that they're going to have to register, like they're going to have a tighter control over KYC and like who buys and sells on their platform, and then where the money goes after it's transferred off platform, they're going to have many more restrictions. I definitely think that stable coins are going to be regulated much more like bank accounts. So like it's not just like the Wild West right now. I really think so I think that also there's going to be a much heavier policing by the SEC and things like that about what constitutes security and what doesn't, and making all the exchanges that trade in those register as securities exchanges, which will be like, Coinbase will, maybe Binance US will. There are going to be a few big securities exchanges that are highly regulated and registered, and that's kind of where it goes. But then, like the rest of the crypto world is, in my opinion, going to become, I wouldn't say dark, but it's going to be very different, to where it's going to be people who get paid in crypto directly for jobs and stuff, or people who build DeFi protocols and then just start like trading amongst all those little assets there, but they never touch like fiat. It'll be harder to buy in. It'll be just a bunch of a kind of a little bit more a crazy thing. There will be a constant demand though for new capital. And so there's going to be a lot of laundering going on, where people will buy and sell crypto on a regulated exchange on behalf of other people. And those people will routinely get like busted and thrown into jail. That's just kind of the way I see the thing shaking out. Crypto, like, probably for people like me, it's not going to change a whole lot. It's just going to be like, oh, you keep running your crypto stuff. You pay taxes on whatever and blah, blah, blah. And then, like, but just when you start to get into this, like, institutional stuff, it's going to get a lot more difficult. I do think a lot of, like, payment apps are going to start, like, implementing more KYC kind of things, too, which, I don't know. We'll see what actually happens. Let's see. We did get another super chat from Onetime. Let me throw that in there.
More gating into.
Yes.
The worst thing that I see happening is more gating of DeFi apps. So like people forcing, not people forcing you, like just getting forced to use KYC or stuff like that to even access DeFi apps and DeFi services. That would suck, man, because that would be DeFi paying for the broken, just like taking on the responsibility for the stupidity of centralized exchanges and institutional players, when like it's CeFi that's breaking things all over. It's not DeFi, because when something in DeFi breaks down, it's pretty controlled. When it's CeFi like this, it just peels all over and creates this whole fucking mess. So that would be really sad to see that you suddenly have to KYC for a US entity, even if you're outside the US, to use Aave or to use whatever it is you use, Uniswap. Like, call it like the most broader use case. Just exchange one currency for the other. That would really suck.
Yeah, and the thing about, like, already a lot of these, I would say they're not DeFi, but they're like the swap services, the no account anonymous swap service things. They already don't really, like Swapspace, or get to, what is it, Changely, like those kinds of things. They already don't really work in the US, so you have to use like a VPN and stuff, like Sideshift.
Yeah.
So I think that DeFi front ends they'll just become DeFi front ends if they aren't already, and that's just going to be the experience where you got to register if you're in the US. If not, fucking turn on a VPN. So anyway, as Onetime says here, the whole point of cryptocurrency is for people everywhere to have personal ownership of their funds and be able to transact without a custodian or intermediary without friction. That's why cryptocurrency is a valuable idea and worth investing in or speculating on. I hope it won't take much longer for people to realize the danger and stupidity of trusting a custodian to hold and manage their crypto. I mean, honestly, I just think it's going to be like, they just got to lose their money. Like, part of it is lose their money, but part of it is also being able to pursue these gains. And honestly, this is what I kind of started to come to the realization on, was DeFi indirectly caused this, kind of. Because DeFi gave people a way to make a bunch of yield. And if you can do that on DeFi, why would you do that on CeFi? Or why would you use CeFi at all? And so then the
Yeah.
CeFi exchanges started upping their game in an unsustainable way to compete with DeFi. Be like, well, we're going to just, but then they started doing stupid things like loaning things out and highly leveraged things and everything. And just like, and then that all collapsed because they were trying to compete with DeFi. And so I think that in the future, probably, what you're going to see is CeFi acting as, and I've said this before, and so I guess we'll see if I'm right or wrong about it, but I think we're going to see CeFi, like exchanges, become DeFi front ends plus fiat on and off ramps. Just sort of like, so for example, say everyone trades on THORChain. Instead of this, it will be like Coinbase will be like a bank thing where you can buy and sell with your bank account and then just plug into a THORChain on the back end for those trades. And so they won't have to do kind of any of this. In fact, I think that a lot of, just like that, what do they call it? The audits, like the proven financial audits and stuff. Instead of those, I think that CeFi will be like proven that they'll prove that they are plugging into these DeFi protocols because
That's
that's the
interesting.
audit instead.
That's interesting. So imagine you have a permissioned gateway to DeFi. So like even if you KYC, let's concede that part. If you KYC through a centralized exchange, then they have to prove that they get you into DeFi and that the keys are all yours. They're just supplying a friendly front end to do so. That'd be cool. And
Yeah.
then like they provide all the interfaces so you move your funds from A to B so that you deploy, etc., to protocols, dApps, all this stuff. But like in the end, I mean, I see that working. I see that being, and the primitives for doing that, they're not even that hard.
Yeah.
Regulation is what makes them hard.
I mean, so many front ends are starting to integrate into things such as THORChain already. So, for example, I know Edge Wallet just added THORChain as their swap service now. So
Oh,
in the Edge
really?
Wallet, you can do that. I mean, I don't know if it's all assets or it's a lot of them, but then the craziest thing is Dex aggregator services in front ends. So, for example, I can't remember which one, if it's THORSwap or THORWAP, but one of these THORChain front ends also combines with like Uniswap or some of these ETH things because then they have a bunch of ETH tokens available to trade that are not available on THORChain, the protocol itself. So they just kind of aggregate both. And then there's another what is it? There's another protocol like a THORChain fork called Maya, which at this point I don't know if they've launched yet, but it's basically kind of like the Litecoin, as it were, right? Like the cheap knockoff or whatever of THORChain, but also to have different assets on it. And then there's something called, I forget what it's called, like the Dark Exchange or Black Exchange or something, which is another fork that they're planning of THORChain that's only going to have like privacy centric assets such as like Monero and Zcash. And so,
Okay.
but so what they're doing with all these, one DeFi front end would be able to aggregate between all of these. And so let's say I want to trade Bitcoin, or like let's say I want to trade Avalanche, AVAX for Dash. So Avalanche is on THORChain right now. Now in this hypothetical, let's say Dash is only on Maya instead. So I would be able to just still make the swap even though they're on two different platforms because it might swap for one intermediary or whatever, and it would just aggregate the little the extra cost or whatever. But you'd be able to swap across that whole thing. Or like you have a front end that has like this super secret dark exchange. It's only the privacy assets. That's all the developers are anonymous and they're like everything's super hidden. But you just plug into that, and then all of a sudden you can offer on a main THORChain aggregator these other assets too. So pretty soon it's just going to be like a plug and play, and then just like mix and match across things, and that's where it starts to get pretty interesting. And I'm sure then you'll find a bunch of front ends getting busted for like fraud because for pretending to be plugging into back ends that they're not plugging into. And so like someone's like, hey, I traced my transaction here, and it turns out it went to this pool, which is actually not a Dex pool at all. This is they're running their own knockoff in the back end and like loading it. Oh, then they get all busted. And so
there's probably a zero knowledge way to prove that, but like the thing is like the technological adoption is so slow. Like imagine just when even if all the tools are built and ready, imagine how long it's gonna take governments and regulators to start accepting zero knowledge proofs and this kind of thing. I see that as a big challenge. Like these are technologies that you can build and that can be useful, but like when are they gonna start accepting them? It's just like I don't see a world in which, like, you know how they say like the world moves forward one debt at a time. So like you kind of need to wait for like the old set of people to die in order for like the new people to finally be able to take over. That shit's generational. Like
yeah.
you just need change in like that super primitive way. Just like people retiring, passing on to younger people, new technologies being accepted, new technologies being spread. So that's our role here, right? Like to just like talk about these things and get people to learn about them and to yeah, have them in the conversation. So eventually something happens one day, but like
Yeah, well, good thing though. I don't think it's going to take that long for this institutional generational change to happen either, because when you're in a younger generation, in your brain can still absorb a lot of new things. A lot of times we have several technological changes within a very short window. And so it's not like, well, this generation knew this technology, that one did this. It's like, well, this generation knew this, that technology, and that's as
yeah.
far as they stopped learning. And so we get to kind of skip ahead a whole bunch. But also, like, there's new people all the time. The other thing I think is interesting, which I've noticed, I don't know if you've looked at any celebrities lately, but people are living longer than they used
Oh
to.
yeah.
So
I like look at Madonna. Yeah. Well, look at Jennifer Aniston. She looks great.
yeah, I mean, look at Tom Cruise. He looks like me, and he's like 60 something. Like I don't know, he's old as anything. Like you're starting to see this stuff. I mean, it's like what I would call the reverse Hoskinson, right? Where you have people who, you know, like I don't know what that guy's doing, but he's not doing the right thing.
Yeah, you gotta start hanging out. He's gonna start putting his money towards this kind of thing, man.
Yeah, and so I think that we're going, or hopefully going to start seeing I think the thing with the generational thing, I'll just end that point there, is I think that what happens is people grew up their entire lives, everything they learn about the world is this, is a very specific thing. And so when things change, they have a hard time changing to the new thing. However, first off, once you there's a lot of people that have a longer formative period of their lives, right? Like for example, a lot of what I'm doing at, I guess I'm 35 right now, right? A lot of what I'm doing in my life right now is something that young 20-year-olds would be doing. And just starting out with this thing or that thing. It's about that formative learning period is much longer for a lot of people now. But also, if people get used to, oh, every 5 years I change the way I make payments, for example. If people get in that habit, then even when they get old, they're still conditioned to be like, well, I have to do a new thing. At least that's my hope. But let me hit on, let's see, what was the next thing over here?
Well,
Yes.
we got the library thing, and I have to run in like 5 minutes. So
Okay.
do you want to just very quickly go over the
Yes.
library thing,
Well,
because I really want to hear your take here?
let me hit this thing really quick first, just to say,
Yeah.
THORChain, as we mentioned, DeFi says the people deserve secure non-custodial swaps directly from hardware wallets. It's that simple. And I think that once we start actually having that, these kinds of catastrophic issues will not be a thing kind of anymore. All right, so let me just, so we could say something
It's
real quick, and
in my
then
in my mind it's the on ramps, off ramps, really. Like you have, I mean, yeah, it's good to say like when you live in crypto you don't have these problems. We know that angle, right? But like really, I mean, we live in a fiat world. It's a transition, so gotta figure out figure out the on ramps, off ramps. What we said about like gateways that directly plug you to DeFi, I think that's the way. I think that's where we should be working on to create nice interfaces that support on and off ramps, but that also just like connect you to the real thing.
Yeah. Well, let me hit the library thing really quick. Judge rules library video platforms token is a security in case brought by the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission. So real quick, the library thing. Library is a proof of work coin, like a mined coin, and it started in I think 2015 or 16, and had I think something like a 50% pre-mine or something. Like almost half the supply was pre-mined by the company, and then that was the company's basically sole source of revenue over the many years that they developed the protocol. And the library token is a utility token, and of course bunch of people are watching on Odyssey right now. So hi guys, by the way. And so basically what the SEC ruled was that because first off, because you sold this token, it had a mostly investment usage, or like an investment usage. That's why you promoted it as such. And also, since the company had no other major sources of revenue other than to do this could definitely be considered a security. Now, I think there's a bunch of holes with that, but the big thing is they did not specify yet what happens as a result. Like, which in my opinion is potentially good for library, but potentially very bad for the crypto space. It's good for library because we don't know what's going to happen as a result. Are all library tokens a security from here on out? That would be kind of ridiculous to say that. I don't think so. They might say that, well, they sold securities during these points and have to pay a huge fine, the company. But the token is not a security today, which like Ethereum, for example, because Ethereum was pre-mined. Ethereum had an ICO and had no consumptive value when those people bought that token. That was a securities offering if ever there was one. Now, is Ethereum a security today? I mean, past SEC members have said no, they don't think so. I also don't think so. And I also don't want to see anything happen to Ethereum negative at all. I mean, I think people knew what they were buying into, right? But I don't care if the regulators jump in at all. But that would be like, oh, they have to pay some sort of fine. The thing is, when they get to just pick and choose the laws that come along, so they get a judge to declare this, but then they're like, all right, well, what happens as a result? It's so not clear. And whenever there's fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that not only crushes innovation, but pushes it out of the country. And so basically the big lesson is don't launch your crypto publicly, like attached to your identity, or in the US. Those are the big things. Launch it in another country and be anonymous. And that's the one way you know you're going to be okay. And I did mention other things like, okay, well, don't pre-mine, just like have a fair launch, as they call, and have your company have a revenue source that isn't the token price going up and down. And there's a few things to be better, but honestly, that's just like, you could still get screwed. Don't launch in the US and don't be public, and you're probably going to be okay. Like, I hate to say it like that, but whatever.
But also just don't like the big problem right now is implying, because actually, I mean, I know a project. I'm not going to say names right now, but I know a project that made their emails with Coinbase semi-public, and basically the whole deal was Coinbase didn't want to list them because of all the stuff that they put on their blogs or on their tweets, and how that would make them unable to pass the Howey tests. So basically, everything that they were saying was implying that there was an opportunity to profit from people's efforts. And that, my friends, is very hard to avoid, because if you're a crypto project that did not have a fair launch, which is 99.8% of them, then you don't have a chance to standing up to this, because anything could be classified as... It depends on your regulator's mood, and that's really a problem, because, how do you prove that if you put a picture of your founder on your site and describe who they are for transparency, how do you know that the SEC is not gonna come look at them and say, "Hey, you cited that this guy has a PhD." That
Mm-hmm.
clearly could lead people to think that they're investing in a smart person's efforts, and therefore you're liable for an illegal securities offering. So it's just like the old rules don't really apply. They're trying to be forced down through situations where they shouldn't apply, and I reckon more people than we want to admit are gonna get hurt because of this, or more projects are gonna get hurt because of that. It's just really, 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 really hard to build anything in 2022, and my main worry right now is that it's just gonna get harder.
I think so too. Uh, Before you run off,
Yeah.
I should hit you with this thing right here. So, since you've been off doing whatever thing, I minted a bunch of NFTs for subscribers that they could pay to go and be in the super chat and all the other kind of cool subscriber perks. But also, that's the proof of stake element. The proof of work element, you can come on, do work for me, which is be on my show. So now, if you're on my show, you get a free shiny microphone NFT, which does all the same stuff. Yay, congratulations. You get
Cool.
your first NFT. Now, I started only on the Wax blockchain, but I'm starting to do Polygon ones too. So, your convenience, send me your either Wax or Polygon address, and I'll send this to you. And then, yeah, you'll have it and be into the Discord and all the cool stuff, and you'll have a shiny, fun thing. So,
That's awesome.
yeah. Well, thanks so
Yeah,
much for being
let
on.
me send you my Polygon right now.
Yeah, I'll have to mint them after the show. But so yeah, you have to take off now, right?
I do, right? I do have to go, but yeah, thank you, man. That was fun. Like the hour really rolled by. I
Very
think
fast.
it was great to hear your takes on all of this. Thank you for that.
Well, thanks a bunch. Yeah, well, have fun with the rest of your day. Everyone else, have fun the rest of your day. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy times we're living in for sure. So, if you're still watching, please hit me up with a like and a subscribe right now, and then yeah, just follow Carlos at Carlos Can Cab on Twitter. And is
And
that
yeah,
your biggest place you hang out?
yes, please. And yeah, maybe by the time you get to do that, Binance has already purchased me. Who knows?
So yeah, you know what? I'm gonna get like Binance tattoo, like the symbol around like each of the nipples right here, and just in case. So then that the CZ will forgive me for all future sins. No,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm not actually doing that. But
The mark of the beast is the Binance logo, basically.
yeah,
All right.
it's pretty crazy.
Thank you very much, my friend, and take care.
Yep. See you. All right,
Bye
everyone.
bye.
Bye bye. See you next week.